Welcome to Dad Rocks, a podcast for dads who love music, made by dads who love music.
Hello and welcome to Dad Rocks, the podcast about being a dad and loving music and how the two intersect in our lives. I'm your host, Josh, and today my guest is Norwood Pearson. Norwood is a professional touring musician as well as a public school music teacher in the Boston area. He and I have known each other for about 15 years, having worked together at Apple Farm Arts Camp for several summers. I have to say that it was such a privilege working with him, and we talk about our time together at Apple Farm, because not only was he the best guitar player I have ever played with in my entire life, but he is also an amazing educator, a really fun person to be around, and just makes everything kind of better. I say that having, been around him a lot, and he just has this exuberance about him and this joy of playing and performing and teaching music. And that's going to come out in the conversation that you'll hear very shortly. He's been a touring musician with the Platters and jazz musician Ron Bossy for many years, and we discussed that as well in the conversation. But of course, the main thing and the main reason I had Norwood on the show is that he's a father to a young son. And that has definitely shaped his life, kind of affected how he approaches his profession. And you're going to hear some really heavy aspects of his personal life as a kid that has affected him as a parent. But before we get to that, I do want to say, again, thank you everyone for listening to this show. This continues to be a passion project that I do in my spare time. I make no money off of this. I do this because I love having these conversations and talking to these amazing people, some who are semi-famous or fairly well-known and some who you may never know in your life. But I think they have some amazing stories and some inspirational stories that I hope you enjoy hearing. So thank you again for listening. I hope to keep putting this out every month, but if I don't, it's just because my personal life is getting in the way. And as we know, family first, job first, and then hobbies. And without further ado, here's my conversation with Norwood Pearson. So it's been about 10 years since we've actually seen each other in person. I believe I stayed at your apartment when I was up in Boston in 2013. So how are you doing in general?
I'm good. I'm very busy. Very, very busy. Yeah, having a toddler at home fills up all the other free time besides work.
Yeah, and you were just on tour with, like I said in the beginning, 2 different ensembles. So first off, how did those go?
Oh, great. Yeah, very different music stylistically. So I did some shows with the Platters, and I did some jazz fusion with Ron Bossy with Jeff Lorber as the guest.
That's awesome. And, again, those are 2 different styles. You're doing doo-wop with, essentially doo-wop in one, and then, avant-garde, jazz fusion, the other. Mm-hmm. So how did you get into both, and what's the experience in being in 2 different types of groups like that?
Well, the Platters started based on a recommendation from a friend of mine that went to Berkeley with me. We both played in a band from Nepal, this Nepali band called the U Generation Project, and we did a little tour, and then a little while after, the Platters needed a guitar player, so they called me, and I prepped as hard as I could for that gig to impress them, and it's been about 10 years now since I started playing with them.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that was that long.
I've been playing with them about 10 years. They work with a number of musicians. I get most of the East Coast gigs, and then occasionally I'll get some international gigs. I just did some stuff in Nevada for them in December. So it's been fun. It's a great group. That music is unbelievably satisfying to play. The songwriting is breathtaking. Some of those tunes, I play them, and I just feel privileged to be able to play them in a really authentic context with the group.
Yeah. Are there any of the original Platters in the group now, or is because I know,
right.
they've been doing the Platters? Is it is Spinners in the Platter, or is it who tour? Because they tour with another group, and they've been doing that for decades. At this
They'll
point.
commonly do shows with the Drifters.
The Drifters, that's what it is. Yes.
And sometimes you'll get a show with the Platters, Drifters, and Coasters, which I've done a few of those. This group is the direct lineage from the original group. So I joined shortly after Herb Reed passed, and everybody has a direct working relationship with the previous singers, including the MD, and the trademark is held by this group as well. So if you're going to go see the Platters, it's obviously not the original, but it's the direct lineage. And years ago, after Herb Reed passed, there was this big legal dispute. There were a bunch of different Platters groups coming up around the country. I was in Branson, Missouri on vacation. I saw a billboard for the Platters, and I was like, that's not the real Platters. So the manager and the trademark holder, Fred Balboni, he went to war legally with all those other groups and consolidated everyone to this one group. And that's the one you'll see touring around the country and internationally.
I want to do. I want to get back to the Ron Bossy tour and stuff, but I'm curious to know, what demographics are you seeing? Age demographics are you seeing at these performances? Because this is music from the 50s and early 60s, and our generation probably knows a little bit of it, but I'm sure that the generation who's younger than us and the kids right now, they probably don't know this music very well. So, who are you seeing in the audiences?
Obviously, the vast majority of the people in the audience are going to be older. So I would say the average age is in the 50s. But I do see lots of young people at the shows. And recently, we just did a show in Atlantic City, and there was about 2,000 people in the audience. So you're looking out, and I see a ton of young people in the audience. And they're actually singing along with the songs.
Interesting.
Which was really cool to see. Some of their tunes have made it into pop culture. So WandaVision used one of their tunes. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button had one of their tunes. Their movies and TV have incorporated their music still. So there are younger people who will go, I know that song, from whatever medium. So it's not all older people at the shows.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And to go back to the Ron Bossy, how did you get involved with him? Because I've seen a lot of on social media you're posting. He does a lot of educational videos and stuff like that. And so, how did you get involved with him?
I did some recording sessions for him a long time ago. I couldn't tell you how many years. It's been over a decade since I had started working with him, and he told me he wanted to incorporate me in some different projects he had. So over the past decade plus, I've been doing various work for him. Oftentimes, he's very prolific in his writing. So he likes to write things that are really, really difficult on guitar. So I'm like the stunt guitar guy who comes in, and he'll literally send me a text saying, can you play this? Is this possible? Right? And he'll bring me in and we'll work through it. So I'd say the past year or two, he started getting in a working relationship with some pretty big names like Jeff Lorber. He's also, worked with Gary Novak and Mike Stern and all these. Some of these people have been my heroes, when I grew up. So he wrote a whole album called Burning Room Only. Shout out to Ron. That he wrote with and recorded with Jeff Lorber, and they did some shows on the East Coast, and so he asked me to come in and play all the rhythm guitar parts for it, which was to me a real honor and a real privilege just to be on stage with that group, because the whole group was made up of just monster musicians. You had obviously Jeff Lorber, who's amazing, but the vibes player is Will Hudgens, who's the principal percussionist for the Boston Symphony.
Oh, wow.
So that was crazy. And then you had Mark Zaleski, who's an absolute beast on saxophone. He's a Berkeley professor. And then you had Steve Langone on drums, who's a very prolific jazz session guy around Boston. And then you had Carlos Silbron, who's a monster bass player from Venezuela. So I'm on stage with all these guys going, what the heck am I doing here? You're just surrounded by...
You're like the youngest guy by 15 years?
Actually, no. Mark is younger than me, I think, the saxophone player.
Okay.
Yeah, he's younger, and the bass player is younger than me. So I'm not the baby of the group.
That just tells us that's in my mind I'm still like, oh, we're young, but no, we're actually I'm officially middle aged now. I'm 40. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, it's like that with everyone. The body ages, but the mind still stays.
Right. Right. And do you go national with him? I know you played Blues Alley and you've been doing some East Coast stuff, but do you tour nationally with him, or are you just an East Coast guy with him?
He has plans to tour the West Coast. He also has plans to go to Europe. So those are in the works right now. When it comes to fruition, I'll get a call, hopefully, and we'll see what happens.
Gotcha. Awesome. And what's life like? You have a young son. You've been married for a few years to your wife. What's life like on the road, being away from them? And how does that work for you? And how are they with you on the road?
Well, I'm the breadwinner of the family, so when I go out, it's primarily for work. So music has kind of turned into my work versus something fun I do, right. Something that I'm passionate, I just want to do. Now it's a means to support my family. So it's kind of evolved into this new thing, which makes me take it way more seriously than I ever did. And then I think it's hard going out and away from the family, especially at the age that River is now, because I see him get devastated when I leave. So that makes it really hard, and it makes it almost not enjoyable as an endeavor. Like, I just want to stay home and play with him, but I have to go do these things. So
right.
I never thought that would happen before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the next question. I mean, you're going for your doctorate right now.
Right.
When we last saw each other, you were teaching middle school. I think it was middle school band, right? You were a middle school teacher in Quincy, right? Or is it Braintree? Braintree. I'm assuming you're not teaching public school anymore, or are you teaching public school?
I am teaching public school still. My position changed. I went from 6th through 8th to just 5th grade, which simplified my job responsibilities. So I start the kids on really easy music. I go in and it's like, let's play Hot Cross Buns today, right? Yeah. Which is a very different mindset than we got to prep for festival and auditions and all this stuff, and having that pressure. So that switch has allowed me to have more freedom to do things outside of the school. I would never be able to pursue a doctorate or do all these shows if I didn't have that new position, which I just started 2 years ago.
Gotcha.
So.
And, even so, obviously it's a lot easier. There's less to do, and you're focused on one grade, and you probably have one concert per, season to focus on, and one ensemble, or maybe you do have a jazz band. I don't know. But how do you still manage to tour and keep all that scheduling, kind of in place with a public school calendar? I find it hard for me to even find much free time to play a gig every once in a while, especially with my life. But I'm just curious how you can, kind of merge those two lives together and make it work.
The groups that I play with, they all know I teach public school, so I turn down gigs, so like sometimes I'll be like, I can't do this because that requires all of this time off,
Yeah.
So it is a balancing act. I use up my personal days every year, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I turn down more work than I do, unfortunately, because of that position. But, a family needs stability. So, like, having a public school job is a consistent salary, which allows me to, help raise a family.
Yeah.
I'd never be able to do that as a freelance musician only. So I value that position very much. So unfortunately, a lot of the freelance stuff falls by the wayside.
Yeah. No, I get that. So to go back to your son, how old is he? I assume he's 3. Is he?
He's 3 and 4 months at this point.
Nice. What are his feelings and attitudes towards music in general?
He has no idea what I do, except even though I've brought him to gigs and I've had him sit in sound checks. Mm-hmm. We've literally done platter shows where we do the sound check in a giant theater and he's running around on stage or running through the aisles. Like, to him, it's just a playground. Like, I don't think he's made the connections of like, oh, daddy's working right now. So as far as like what we do at home, we sing a lot, mostly. He's not quite mature enough to do anything meaningful on an instrument. He'll bang on the piano or strum the strings on a guitar, but he does sing a lot, and he's very musical in that respect. So
that's great.
Is
your I assume you're, being married to you, your wife must be into music as well.
She's a music enthusiast. She's not a musician. So she has an epic vinyl collection here. She has hundreds of vinyl. It's pretty incredible. She's very passionate about collecting obscure pop vinyl.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have a lot of music going on in the house. When my son was 3, he had some favorites. He was, and it was changing constantly. But like he's a typical kid being obsessed with a few songs and like a group or something or an artist for a little bit and then move on, or TV shows. Is your son, does he have any favorites? Does he have anything that he's really hooked on now, or is it kind of like fluid, or is he open to anything in terms of music, listening to music and stuff?
Well, since I'm on the road a lot and working a lot, he has his mom's taste in music right now. So a lot of pop music. He likes let's see. He obviously likes Beyonce, Nick Jonas. That kind of music. And anything with a strong beat, he's really into. Actually, some of the musicians that have been around him says he's probably going to be a drummer. So you would like that, yeah. So
well, you better start. Make sure your place is ready to have a set, or invest in an electric kit so that you don't have to be hearing him.
I'm getting him a set for Christmas. Actually, I'm going to get him a scaled down set for his size, just to see what happens. Maybe he'll destroy it in a month, but we'll see. Yeah.
And in that sense, do you have plans to kind of, as a music teacher, music educator, do you hope that he takes on instruments? Are you going to try to, have him take lessons, or are you going to base it on what he's interested in and that kind of stuff?
I have some really high-level drum teachers in the Boston area who've said they would teach him, like who one of them's a Berkeley professor. So I'm really excited at that prospect. So when he's a little older and more mature, we'll try it. Maybe some piano lessons, singing lessons. I think music is like sports. There's a sport for everyone, you know, and I think with music, there's an instrument or genre for everyone. You just have to try things out and see what works. So I don't have any expectations for him as far as what he's going to play or, you know, what direction he's going to go in with his musical tastes. But I am going to have him try stuff, just like with sports. He'll try soccer, he'll try baseball, he'll try all of that. He'll try drums, he'll try piano, you know. And we'll see what happens, you know. Maybe he'll hate music and just be like rebelling against me and become an accountant. I don't know.
I mean that's at least as long as he's happy and successful, right? I mean,
that's the most important thing, you know.
And does he when you play in the house? Does he enjoy it? Does he like hearing you play, or, you know, only if you play his favorite songs kind of deal?
Right now, he doesn't like that the guitar takes my attention away from him. It's almost like the guitar is a sibling, and he's fighting for attention. So whenever I take the guitar out to play, he's like, no! And he's like, I want to play this, you know. So at the moment, he's not a fan, you know.
Gotcha.
But we'll see what happens.
Do you think that's because he sees the guitar as like the reason why you leave the house, and, you know, that he doesn't like it because it's why you leave him kind of deal? It
might be, yeah. Or sometimes I'll go off in another room and practice. Be like, I can't play with you. I have to go play with the guitar. So again, it's probably like a sibling who's fighting with.
Yeah. Do you try to practice when he's sleeping, or is that it's hard to do because of the noise?
I'll do it when he's sleeping, but sometimes if I have a really intense gig coming up, I'll have to do it during the days. I've tried practicing with him around, and he's not into it right now. So,
well, anyone who's worked from home during the pandemic can tell you that when you try to be productive and you have little kids around, unless they're sitting right in front of the TV or playing a video game, you will be distracted like 80% of the time.
100%. I just submitted a few weeks ago my qualifying exams for my doctorate program, and that's a very intense assignment. And I told my wife, I was like, I can't be home to work on this. Like, I can't. So I actually had to get a hotel room for myself for almost a week and lock myself away because I wasn't able to do the amount of work necessary with him around. It was impossible. So
yeah, I mean, my wife works from home 4 days a week, and my mom and her parents help out with our 11-month-old. But when our soon-to-be 5-year-old, he's turning 5 tomorrow, when he is home on Fridays, my wife's like, I get no work done because it's just between him complaining about stuff to my mom or my mom asking what to do, and like him running into the office. It's terrible. And it's interesting thinking back to the pandemic and being like, teaching from home. It's like, at the time when I was starting all that, it was gravy because my son was 2 and like you need a little bit of attention. But then I wasn't dealing with the kids who really need a lot of attention, a lot of work, and especially help with all all their homework and classwork. And I this was not something I was planning to talk about, but since I'm kind of on the subject, how was your experience teaching during the pandemic? And I don't know what things were like up in Boston, especially in the first full school year, the 2021 school year. If you guys were hybrid or if you were fully out, but I can't imagine teaching music was much fun in general during that time.
It was all virtual for a long time, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I considered quitting the profession
Oh wow.
If it was going to continue, you know, indefinitely, because, you know, like everybody else, when we switched to virtual, there was no rule book, there was no precedent for it, so there was so many things we were struggling with, like the kids, half of them just wouldn't log on, you know, or they would log on and shut their screen off and ignore, you know, and then the ones who were on, it was hard. It was, you know, you'd have connection issues, and like it's hard to keep their attention for the whole time, like when you're not in the room with them. So all of these different things, while it was nice to be home, you know, because we had a baby, and it was just, I would rather work at McDonald's flipping burgers. Honestly.
No,
then go through that
understand.
again. 100%. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I'm totally on board. I mean, I had it easy as a computer teacher because a lot of stuff I was doing was like, I just made it like, oh, you go do this and I'll check in. Like it's very self-paced. But I can't imagine like trying to keep the attention of 3 kids virtually, and then also trying to, I don't even know if you did lessons online or if it was just,
I did private lessons also, like on top, because I teach private lessons outside of school. So having that on top of the virtual learning in public school was an absolute nightmare. And I'd love to say I was like the superstar teacher who just killed the virtual teaching, and every kid had a positive experience. But I got really defeated and apathetic as time went on. You know, and I'm saying this, you know, maybe people are listening and they'll feel like they had the same experience. So maybe it'll help validate their experience. I got more and more apathetic as time went on. At a month before we were supposed to go back, they would literally log on. I'd be like, your assignments in smart music, I'll be here if you need me. You know, like I just got so frustrated, you know.
And when you guys did go back, did they have to wear masks in band? Like, did you do the crazy thing where you put the mask on the bell of the horn and kind of stuff? Or was it it kind of just like once you're in band class, it's kind of a little different?
It was to me, it was so ridiculous. We didn't do the bell covers or anything. Yeah. We called the trombones COVID cannons. but the they would wear a mask, and then when they play, they would take the mask down. So it was so preposterous, you know. Yeah. But funny story. When we went back, the spring concert, the day of the concert, I got COVID. So the day of the concert, they wouldn't let me in the building. They said, you're not allowed to do it. Like, we've been working. So they got a random teacher, one of the other music teachers, just like hours, like 2 hours before the concert, he came in and I'm like, here's the scores, good luck, you know, and he had to conduct it. That was rough, you know.
Yeah, I can't. You know, that must have sucked for you too. I mean, be working so hard and then not be able to see the fruits of your labor, help the kids actually, you know, meet that.
Yeah, I'm glad everything's kind of died down a little bit. Like if you get COVID now, it's not like a super big deal. It's like getting the flu, you know.
Yeah, I totally get it. And you know, again, being a music teacher was had to be a totally different experience than a lot of other classroom teachers, in the fact that like you can't just wear a mask like when you play. Like it's you have to blow wind out of your mouth to create sound. The only people who could wear masks were the drummers probably, and they probably, knowing many drummers, they probably were wearing it on their noses and on their heads and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, just to go back a little bit to your son and how he is, and just fatherhood in general. You have a 3-year-old now. What's been the most challenging thing so far for you in terms of having basically a preschooler at this point?
Just it's hard because like as a parent, you want to every little thing he does, there's this anxiety of like, is he doing well? Is he not? Is he falling behind? Is he like what and have every interaction I have with him, like, is he saying enough words? Is he stringing together his sentences at an age appropriate, at a developmentally appropriate level? And also making sure that I'm there for him as much as possible. It's really what I've learned so far is just time is the most valuable thing, and that's the biggest challenge for me is making as much time as possible with him. And so when I'm out all the time, I wonder, that anxiety comes back, is like, am I damaging my child by being out so much? Like, is this stunting his development? His mother's home with him all the time, but these are the thoughts that I have as a father. I'm like, I'm not home reading to him at night for like 3 days in a row. Is that hurting his development? Yeah. So I think that's the biggest challenge.
I mean, I have that challenge too, mostly in terms of, very not in the same aspect. I mean, I definitely have those anxiety, driven things of like, oh, is my son, is he okay? Like, is he, with the baby now, it's like, he's not talking as early as, or making noises like his brother did, or he's not doing this like his brother did, or, and before with my older one, it's like, oh, he's not doing what everyone else I'm seeing on, Facebook, their kids are doing, that kind of thing. But for me also, it's like, are my actions towards my son, how I react, when he doesn't do something, is that going to affect him and kind of create the same cycle, like how my father reacted to me doing stuff, and then now, that kind of stuff, and that's where my anxiety lies. But I totally, obviously understand that, and I can't imagine, I had the opposite thing when my son was your son's age, in that I was home a lot because of the pandemic. We were constantly together, and so I can't even imagine being away from him for 2 days is one thing. I went on a couple of trips, but to be gone multiple times away, and my brother's dealing with that right now because he's a touring musician and he's gone like almost every weekend.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah,
and it's not even like his development as in a competitive sense. Like, I'm not worried about him like surpassing his peers and stuff like that. It like, that is irrelevant. Like, I don't care about that. It's just,
is he hitting the milestones?
Exactly. Is it because he's going to be in school soon, like in a year and a half. It's like, is he going to be the weird kid like that doesn't that can't articulate things and is socially awkward? I don't know. It's exciting and also terrifying to think about looking forward.
Well, I mean, the good thing is that these kids are so adaptable, and they take things in like sponges, and they just grow. I mean, when we kept my son out of daycare for a year, his social skills definitely plummeted, and then it took him a while to get back into the groove of things and how to interact with kids. But within a month or two, he was totally fine. And because initially he was scared of being around other people, kind of, and he didn't want to like interact with others, and then getting into back in the mold was helpful. And so I also want to ask, because you grew up with a single mother, your father wasn't, as far as I know, he wasn't very involved in your life, or am I wrong in that aspect?
No, not really. No.
Okay, so. How was your experience growing up in that kind of household with that kind of family dynamic? How do you think that's affected you as a father?
Oh, as a father? Ooh, that's deep. Well, it puts a lot of pressure on me, right? Because I want to be the person that ends that, in the lineage of my family, right? it wasn't just my father. If you go back, my family has a lot of history of neglect, right? So I think anybody who grew up without a father probably feels that. They want to be that person for their kid that they never had growing up, right? The issue that I have is I have no template to draw from. So it's not like I had one that I can look at like I'm going to do this or I'm not going to do this. I have no reference point. So for me, it's trying to understand what being a good father is, because when you don't have that role model, you can't emulate, right?
So your grandfathers weren't even in the picture either, or you didn't have
Nope.
no male role models?
I had no real male role models growing up, except for I had a deaf stepfather for about, I think, 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And so he was great. He's a great guy, but it's not the same thing. So I think that's the thing. It's like I'm trying to figure out how to be the best father I can be, from scratch almost. Right? Because my whole upbringing, it was my aunt and my mother, and all of my role models in school were women, for the most part, with a couple exceptions. So even through college,
Interesting.
yeah. So it's I don't know if I approach it with a more feminine energy than a typical father. I don't know.
Did you have any reservations about being a father?
No, I think I met my wife when we were in our mid-30s. We were both like, let's do this. Like
I meant more just based on the family history. If you felt like, shit, I don't want to do that. I'm worried that something's in my brain's gonna flick on, turn on, and I'm gonna do the same thing that's happened to my family for generations.
No, because when you grow up without a father, you have that. At least for me, it's in the back of your mind your whole life that I'm going to be, if I'm in a situation where I do have a child, I'm going to be this type of person, So
Yeah.
I was confident that I could do it. There was never any point where I didn't think I couldn't do it, even when I was like a teenager, because you can't help but think that. You're like, what if I'm the parental figure? Like, how can I change, my kid's life that's different from what I am in right now? So.
Growing up, you obviously were incredibly into music, and knowing your talents and where you went to the school for college, was that always your driving, your goal to be a professional musician, or did you want to be a music educator, or was music always going to be something that was going to be a huge part of your life?
I think I started taking it seriously around 12 or 13, and from that point, that's what I wanted to do. Going forward, I became absolutely obsessed, almost in an unhealthy way. So actually, I think people might appreciate this story. I originally wanted to be a marine biologist when I was a kid. I was really into sharks and all that. So I went to this great place in Maine called New England Music Camp. That's where I got a lot of my music training. And when I was there, I was probably 12. There was this kid in my cabin who was a really great guitar player, to the point where I would see everybody around him would admire him and bring him into shows and stuff. He was killing it. And for whatever reason, he would jam with me, and I was not on the same level. So what would happen was we would go hang out in a practice room, and all I really knew how to play was Fade to Black by Metallica. The rhythm part, other than some chords and stuff like that, but as far as actual songs, that's really all I really knew. So we would literally spend like an hour where I would play that and he would just solo over it. So having that experience with somebody at a higher level who's willing to take the time to just jam like that had a real impact on me. So when I left there that summer, I had this drive that I wanted to be at least as good as he was, not to show him up, but just as a product of just admiration, right? And so from there, it just built up momentum, and I became absolutely obsessed with it. His name, I still remember, his name was Dan Nissenbaum. So if he ever hears this, shout out to him, or if anybody knows him, thank him for me. But what is remarkable to me about that is that it could have gone the other way easily. He could have bullied me. He could have put my abilities down and completely discouraged me. My life would have been completely different, but he didn't. And that's amazing to me that a young teenage boy would actually do that for another person.
Yeah.
So
that's like incredibly mature for him.
Right. So
he was your same age, or was he older?
About the same age. Yeah. Maybe a year older. Right. But so the takeaway from this is anybody who's listening is you don't know what impact you have on somebody. Like to him, it was probably completely innocuous. He probably doesn't even remember it. But for me, it was life-changing.
Right.
So it's something to consider for everyone when you're having interactions with people.
Well, it's interesting, and I was going to bring it up a little later, but it's interesting you telling that story because it now all clicks and everything makes sense of how you approached working at Apple Farm when we worked there. Your approach there was never like you showed off. It was fun for the kids to see your talents, but you never made it a point to say, I'm so much better than everyone else, like by a million years. You were like, let's just play and let's do it. And you encouraged the kids and you kind of pushed them up to the level that they needed to be without having that kind of bravado and stuff like that. And everything's just kind of like, I'm just thinking back to all those 3 years we worked together, just like, it's all clicking and what you're saying and how impactful that
exactly
that interaction with the kids.
And believe it or not, I've never told that story.
Wow.
Right? So the only person I think knows that story is my mother. Right? So that's exactly it. Like I look at every interaction with somebody who's not as experienced as an opportunity to help them. You try and model. So you don't want to dumb it down for them, right? You want to model, but you also want to be encouraging at the same time. And I still do that now. Like I try and make a point of working with more inexperienced singers and artists who are coming up and trying to help them get their career started. I've done that a few times with some singers over the years, as a way of just helping and giving back. I think it's really important because it perpetuates throughout society. You help one person, they help another person, and so on.
Was that also a propellant for you to go into education?
I went into education because my teacher said that that's the move. My high school mentors really broke it down. They said, if you go into performance, you're going to graduate and probably not have a job. But I also do enjoy teaching. In high school, we'd have a little variety show every year, and I would always I'd be in 10, 12 acts, and I would actually teach everybody how to play their parts. And I'd be almost like an MD. And so that experience of doing that was impactful to me because I enjoyed that process. I did my senior year, I did a Steve Vai tune, and my backup band was all young high school kids. And I taught them all how to play the parts, right? And like one of them, the bass player had never played bass before the show. So like I really enjoy teaching and working with people on that.
To that, and since you're talking about high school, what, to go into music is as a profession and to study it is definitely, a lot of people do it. My girlfriend in college was a music major, and now she's a food scientist. Like, she always had that backup plan. If you're not going to be an educator, that kind of stuff. But, there's always that trepidation from parents sometimes about, oh, you're going to be a musician. You have a fallback plan. What was your mother's reaction when you're like, I'm going to Berkeley, or I want to go to Berkeley?
I think it just seemed inevitable to her. Like,
oh, really?
I was a weird, troubled teenager in a lot of ways. I wanted to drop out of school and just go to an art school. All I cared about was music. And I actually dropped out of high school my junior year for the most part. I was homeschooled, and all I did was practice and gig, and I went into school to do music classes.
Wow.
So my mother, she wasn't like, no, you can't do that. She was like,
right.
Yeah, of
this
course.
Is like, this is the avenue that's going to get my son through life, basically.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, of course, that's what's going to happen. It was kind of obvious to everybody. I did Berkeley because mostly because it had music ed and contemporary guitar. I wasn't interested as much in classical guitar, which there was literally no other option anywhere to do music ed and contemporary guitar.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the reason I went to Berkeley.
And I mean, some of the professors there are like, superstar musicians, so
yeah, they do okay over there.
Do you think if you had gone and studied just say jazz at like a major school, like a big state school or even a private school, do you think you would have come out the same way, or you think Berkeley really, changed your life, in terms of your profession and the direction you ended up in?
Well, it definitely helped with my networking in the Boston area. It's definitely helped me, get some gigs, and it opened some doors for me. It's hard to say like what would have happened if I went somewhere else. My some other suggestions I had from people was to go to like North Texas, or to go to, I think, Florida State was another one. I don't think that Berkeley had a specific impact on me in general in terms of direction, because I was literally obsessed. The first 2 years I was at Berkeley, I lived with this roommate, and I didn't have a room, so we had it was crazy. I can't imagine the perspective from this guy I was living with, because I just lived in his living room on the other side of his couch, and I would spend like 12 hours a day transcribing. Before I even got to school, I took a semester off before I started school, and I would just spend 12 hours a day transcribing Zappa music.
But which Zappa, like his orchestral stuff, or just general, quote unquote mainstream Zappa?
The most intensive one I did was the Black Page. I did that, and then I did the 1984 version with the guitar solo. I transcribed the entire guitar solo.
Okay.
I was an admirer of Steve Vai, because that's how he started with Zappa. So
as long as you didn't transpose the drum solo into guitar, that would have been insane. Terry Bozzio's drum solo.
Well, I'll tell you,
guitar.
I did it with a CD player, which I couldn't slow down. So I would literally be like, start, stop. I got really good at that. That was my Berkeley audition piece. I went in with the full. I went in with the full transcription of the Black Page and everything. It was like 5 pages of literal black, and I handed it to professors, and then I played it for him along with the recording.
Oh wow!
So I don't think that I would have done much different in other schools, in terms of my musical direction. but it definitely opened doors in terms of networking. I think that's the real value in Berkeley at this point is the connections you make.
Paying $80,000 a year to net with social.
The tuition went way up after I left, for sure.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't cheap when you were there either. So
I almost didn't make it because of that. Like at one point, I was gonna go back to Maine and go to. I auditioned at UMaine. I went in with an 8-page transcription of a Joe Pass solo, and same thing. I handed them the transcription I did, and then I played it for them. And I got into there, but then like I managed to get enough scholarship money to finish my time at Berkeley. But it was real close that I almost didn't make it through because of the cost.
As we brought up, we both worked at Apple Farm. You actually started a year before me, and then in 2006. You started in 2006. I came in, and I was in the same bunk as you were. We were in the you were with Giles in the bunk 15, and then I came in and was bunk 15 counselor. And so there's kids who were there the year before were like, "Oh, you're the new Woody," like kind of deal, which funny. I was not at all. And for those of you who have not heard the show, from the beginning, Apple Farm is an arts and music camp in South New Jersey, and I went there as a camper. I know if you've listened to the Buzzy Cohen episode, this is a place that a lot of kids from New Jersey, Philadelphia, New York area go to for summer camp, arts camp. How did you find out about the camp, and what kind of brought you in and kind of intrigued you about going there? Because I believe you were probably just turned 20 or were 20 because that's the minimum age that you could work there. How did you end up getting involved there?
There was a flyer at Berkeley, and I grew. Camps always had an impact. It had a major impact on my life, as I told you in the previous story. I went to basically conservatory camp from the time I was 10 through 18.
Oh, wow.
My life would be completely different if I didn't have that experience. I really value the camp experience. I think it's really important. For me, it was getting away from my normal life and getting to explore a potentially different identity or a different aspect of an identity because I'm in a different setting with different people, right?
Absolutely.
So I saw a flyer at Berkeley and I was like, "Oh, a camp, that would be amazing." So I applied and I got in, and I think I was there for 5 or 6 years total. I think.
So you were there. The years were, you were 2006. I came in 2007. Yeah. You came back in 2008.
Yeah.
And that's when we started playing together with the Gefilte Frisch combo. That was fantastic and super fun. And then we were both together in 2009. Then I took a year off in 2010 because I had a terrible summer in 2009. And I was going through some shit of my own.
Yeah.
And then we worked 2011 together when you were head of music, and then I worked 2012. So I think we both worked 5 years and 3 years together, though.
Yeah.
So looking back on your 5 years there, what did you take away as a musician, as a person, as an educator from your experience there?
Okay, so if we do those three things, as a musician, just getting to be around all those, arts, all those artists was really inspiring.
Well, and just I have a question. I don't mean to derail you, just real quick.
Oh yeah.
In terms of that, what was it like going from a place like Berkeley and then coming to Apple Farm, where it's Joes like me who didn't, I've played music my entire life. I didn't study it to that degree, but then you tell me that you love playing with me. Like, how has that changed from going from such an intense place to a camp setting where there's great musicians or really good musicians, but maybe not on that level? Like, was it refreshing for you? Was it frustrating? I mean, obviously we had fun, but like, was there any, I guess, what were your emotions and feelings, about that?
I disagree that it's not on the same level. There's some amazing musicians going through there. Oh my God.
I guess I'm projecting. I'm just projecting my own.
Well, I mean, like you get down there and you're right. It's hard to look beyond Berkeley when you're there. You think that that's the world, right? But getting down there was just so many amazing, passionate people that it didn't matter where I came from, because everybody's so into what they're doing. And there's also this youthful energy, right? For the most part, most of the staff are in their early 20s. So we're all kids, So I just found it really inspiring. And playing with you was an absolute riot for me. I don't know if you know this, there's a video on my YouTube channel. I'm not a YouTuber. I just put random videos up. But there's a video of us playing. I did a solo on a Coltrane tune. And what's cool is that I'm doing the solo. You are with me every step of the way. You're anticipating.
Was this with the girl in Zynga?
Yes, yeah. So I posted just my solo because I didn't want to post something of other people, right, without their permission. But you were with me every step of the way in that video. You're anticipating my phrasing and stuff, and you're right there with me. That's just as good as anything at Berkeley, right?
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So people can check that out. I think it's called Afro Blue Solo.
I actually have I posted the whole video.
Yeah,
I think on YouTube. I'll put a link in.
But
so
the
people can check
kids
it out.
too. The kids are really inspiring too. Like I remember her standing in a field with a real book, just practicing, and every spare moment she had. Some of those guitar players were killer. Ollie.
Remember Ned Hawley, the drummer?
Do I remember Ned? I don't know. Sorry, Ned.
He was like he was an insane drummer. I looked him up recently. He's still playing, but he was legit like, I can't teach you anything kind of deal. Like, you were better than everyone. I think you worked with Mikey Colton once that first summer.
Yeah.
Bass player.
Yeah.
He's playing with doing mock tour now. Like, he's like the touring bass player for him. Like, he was the kid.
Yeah, I remember there's this one young kid.
Joe Bell.
It might have been him. He was. We did like a John Petrucci tune with him and it was all staff backing him up. And I remember sitting down with him and like throwing him like a shred lick, and he would throw it right back at me. And I'm like, who is this kid? So the kids were just as inspirational as the staff, honestly.
Yeah, and there's also Ollie Bernstein.
I still keep in touch with Ollie. He just played some festivals in Europe. He moved to Japan, and it's crazy because I remember when he came in, we try and put people together who are stylistically similar in the rock bands, but he came in, he's like, I just want to do Japanese metal, and I'm like, well, we can do that, but we got to do some other tunes too. He's like, Japanese metal all the way, like, and I was like, that's so unusual. To have that deep of a passion for that. That's not part of your original culture, right? And then he ended up going to Japan, learning the language and being part of a huge metal band there. They're very popular. Yeah. It's really cool to see. I tell my students in Braintree about him every year. Like you can do whatever you want if you set your mind to it.
Exactly. So it's to go back to the question. So obviously musically, it was, great for, you and you had a wonderful time. As an educator, what was the, impact? And then, personally, like how did it kind of impact you?
As an educator, I was very young when I started. So just the opportunity to practice teaching, I would do it completely different now if I ever went back, not that I would, because I have a kid now, but,
you have to wait till he's old enough, then you can go and he can go for free.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Just practicing teaching and getting that opportunity to work with really gifted kids, that just informed my teaching going forward. Every year I would go back. It would be like this feedback loop. I would use my experiences from camp as I'm getting my degree in teaching. And so I would have these experiences draw from when I'm in classes studying pedagogy, right?
Yeah.
And then stuff I would learn at Berkeley, I would bring back to camp. It was great. I don't think I would have grown as much if I hadn't had the camp experience.
Personally, like, did you? Because I know for me, it was a very important experience personally, where it helped me grow and figure things out in my mid to late 20s, where I was kind of in flux in a lot of areas of my life. But what was it like for you personally? Because
It was, I mean, it's pretty chaotic for me personally. Like, not to go into too many details, but I had you have experiences that help you grow, both positive and negative, right? So there's experiences there I'll remember for the rest of my life that, where I'll be like, I'm never doing that again, or I'm or just connections that I make that were really positive that, help me see different sides of myself.
Yeah.
It's hard. I
Absolutely.
mean, when you're in your early mid-20s, you're still figuring out who you are and what you want and stuff. You're barely an adult. So being around other like-minded people who are pretty much going through the same thing, because everyone was mostly the same age. I mean, that's an unbelievably valuable experience. Yeah.
So we're going to start wrapping things up, but at the end of every episode, I like to ask my guests what they've been listening to lately, just to inform other people of, what other people are listening to, because, there's so much music out there. So who are 3 artists or songs or albums or whatever that you've really been enjoying lately?
Honestly, right now I learn a lot. A lot of what I listen to is for gigs.
Or we can rephrase it and say, what are 3 songs, 3 artists that you would highly recommend that others listen to?
Okay, I will tell you, based on my experiences from recent gigs and stuff, I've really come to appreciate R&B music and funk music. That it's a whole different heritage and vocabulary.
Yep.
And so when I play something like a Bruno Mars tune or a Beyonce tune at a gig, I'm starting to really understand the lineage of where they're drawing their inspiration from, and and expanding my vocabulary in that. So in that sense, what I've been listening to lately is a lot of that. A lot of James Brown. I listen to a lot of James Brown lately. A lot
Great
of
stuff to listen to.
a lot of Beyonce, a lot of Michael Jackson. I just saw Beyonce in concert a couple weeks ago.
How was that?
Oh, incredible. The Beehive is an amazing community. That's
Okay.
When she came on stage, it was like Jesus just came back from the dead.
Right.
Like, the people were losing their mind. It was incredible to see. There's a video I posted from that where she got 50,000 plus people to sing together and modulate. They modulated 4 times.
wow.
They sang Love on Top and modulated without any assistance. 50,000 people. That was
amazing.
To me, that was unbelievable. I was freaking out. My wife was like, "What's the big deal?" And I was like, "You have no idea how insane that is." So yeah, just that kind of stuff. I go through different phases in life with musical tastes.
Yeah.
So at the moment, that's what I'm listening to a lot.
Gotcha. Norwood, thank you so much for coming on to the show. This was so great to talk to you again, see you, even virtually. I have such great memories of us, playing music and hanging out. It's so awesome to see you become such, a great educator, great musician, and just, keep going. And, I'm just so happy you were able to come on the show.
Well, thank you. This is really fun for me to get to see you again and talk to you again after so long. Catch up a little bit. So thank you. Thank you.
No problem. And have a great school year.
All right. Thank you, man. Take care.
Thanks for listening to this episode, and special thanks again to Norwood Pearson for coming on to the show. You can follow Norwood on Instagram at Norwood_Pearson. That's NORWOOD_PEARSON. This is where he posts tons of pictures and video clips of his performances, and you'll get a sense of how great he is as a musician. You can also go to norwoodpearson.com to watch selected clips and find out more about Norwood. We'll also post a link to the YouTube video that was mentioned during the conversation in the episode description so you can get a sense of what we did when we played together at Apple Farm Arts Camp. If you enjoyed what you heard, I would love for you to subscribe to the show and would really appreciate it if you left an honest review. Or, just tell a friend or two about us. Either way, it helps us and gets the word out. If you'd like to follow the show on social media, we're on Instagram, Threads, and the app formerly known as Twitter at Dad Rocks Pod, as well as on Facebook by just searching up Dad Rocks Podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or show ideas, or just want to give a shout, you can email the show at dadrockspod@gmail.com. Once again, thanks for listening today, and remember, dads, you rock.